Is anybody still telling what their preferred pronouns are?
Life is a funny old broad. She keeps you guessing.
Hey, everybody. Angela, middle initial K, last name Durden, and this is The Constrained View. As you can tell, I'm a publisher, editor, author, and host of The Constrained View, publisher at blueroombooks.com, editor of many things through the years. That's what I do. Words are my thing. And I'm an author, of course, over 20-something books, some under Durden Kell, which I do my fiction in, and the others under Angela Durden, Angela, middle initial K Durden. I don't know how the K got left off of some of the stuff, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Here in Atlanta is a online publication called Atlanta Civic Circle. It's a nonprofit, so their website address is atlantacivicCircle.org. I subscribe to it because to me, this organization seems like an organization of people who really, really, really want what's best for Atlanta, Metro Atlanta. I really do believe that. They've written some stuff that was pretty good, in depth, went against prevailing wisdom and this sort of thing, yet made some really good points and would be something I'd say, yeah, that's good. But other times they're, and I hate to say this, but their Marxist roots are showing. I got something back in October, on October 21st, an email entitled A Community Land Trust for DeKalb. Now, I live in DeKalb County, and that's what caught my attention. But as I began to read, I printed it out because I knew I wanted to read it later. And they should be happy to note that I printed it out and that I read the whole thing. The opening paragraph, this was written by Sean Keenan. Now, I don't know who Sean Keenan is. He's not the founder of this. I do know that. There's a woman who's a founder. I forget her name. I really do. And I didn't look it up. It's kind of hard to find these names sometimes. I don't know what's going on with them. But his was 3 days in D.C. is what it's entitled. I'm gonna read some of this to you. He says, I spent 3 days earlier this month in Washington, D.C. for a National Press Foundation fellowship, learning how local governments can respond to the Trump administration's norm-shattering actions that are adversely affecting their communities. Okay, let's talk about this paragraph for a moment. Sean Keenan went up for 3 days to the National Press Foundation to learn how local governments can respond to the Trump administration's norm-shattering actions that are adversely affecting their communities. Now, this sounds like a wonderful, wonderful thing to learn. If communities are being adversely affected, then sure, we want to know what's going on. What he did not understand, did not come to understand, as is in this article, which I will be getting to shortly, is that norm shattering is not a bad thing. Norm is really the main place within which things swing. You know, it's here. But it's not really a swing either, is it? Because it will always come back, a pendulum will always come back to dead center, always. That's what pendulums do. But politics is not a pendulum. It isn't. Marxists are moving the scale to what they define as the norm. But we're finding that those norms need to be shattered and brought back to common sense things. This is what's happening, is that nonsensical, illogical Marxist norms are being shattered, and ruh-roh, we can't have that. It says it's those shatterings of these they're complaining that their Marxist ways are being torn down and that it's adversely affecting their communities. Well, that's because they were running them wrong in the first place. I live in the metro Atlanta area. I've lived here my whole life. I've seen it go from decent. Everything was kind of, you can go anywhere, not worry about crime. I used to ride the bus to downtown Atlanta when I was 12 with my sister who was 11. Walk all over downtown, go into Rich's, go have a hot dog across the street at this little place. I don't know what it was called. And never once worried about my safety. Not once. Take the bus back home. Lived in East Point at the time. Easy to catch a bus. Never once worry about it. You can't hardly do that. A kid can't do that anymore without the parents worrying. Most parents won't even let their kids do anything like that anymore by themselves. So we can tell the Marxist ways have not. It's the Marxist ways that have adversely affected the communities. And notice it's their communities. It's the Marxist ways that have adversely affected. Trump is getting rid of that crap. Yay for him. But Sean Keenan, oh, Sean, baby doll, I don't know if you're going to see this video or not. Y'all don't return my emails. When I had a question about something else, I've never received a reply. Sean, you just spent 3 days at the National Press Foundation in this fellowship they gave you, learning how to be a good little Marxist and combat logic and common sense. Let me read to you what he said. So much propaganda. I flew back to Atlanta with a pit in my stomach. The sinking feeling that cities can no longer rely on the federal government's greater resources to confront the affordable housing crisis. Did you notice that? The sinking feeling, his poor pit of his stomach, the sinking feeling that cities can no longer rely on the federal government's greater resources. Where, Sean, have you asked yourself where the federal government gets these greater resources? Have you? Have you once asked where the money comes from? It comes from taxpayers, Sean. Are you a taxpayer, Sean? I only ask because I don't know. I don't know what your, if you even pay taxes. I don't know what your socioeconomic strata is. I don't know at all. So I'm asking, do you realize that if you pay taxes to the federal government, part of that is what is funding these Marxist things in local governments in Atlanta? I've seen it happen. It's been I'm just going, oh my God, there they go again. I know a guy known in my whole life. If there's two choices, choice A and choice B, to do a thing, and choice A is above and beyond anything, the most common sense, the most logical, the most affordable way of doing it, he will always pick B. Always. Even after asking for advice and being told A is the best way to go, do A, he will always pick B. Always. Because to him, that's how it's best going to work. To suit him. Well, you know what? Sean, don't be like that guy. Don't pick B, or should I say M, the Marxist way of doing things. Anyway, he went to learn how to confront the affordable housing crisis. It's an affordable housing crisis because the Marxists have been screwing around with everything. Now, somehow or another, there was a summit. I don't know if it happened then or at another time. He says, during the Federal Action Local Impact Journalism Summit, policy experts and public officials, plus reporters and PR pros, told us that the federal government no longer values evidence-based policymaking, housing-related or otherwise. Oh, dear me. Sean. I'm not a policy expert. I'm not a public official. I am a citizen journalist, but I don't work for any organization except for myself. So therefore, I'm not a reporter that works for somebody. I'm definitely not a PR pro, a PR, public relations professional. Sean, are you that easily impressed by titles? Did you not listen to everything they said? Obviously you did, but you didn't think about it. You didn't question it. All of these policy experts and public officials and reporters, public relations professionals, told us, the mere attendees, that the federal government no longer values evidence-based policymaking, housing-related or otherwise. A or B? That's called propaganda speak, Sean. Do you hear me? That is called propaganda speak. Frankly, I'm horrified that you have fallen for it. Why did you fall for it, Sean? Is it because you were intimidated? Because you don't think much of your own ability to think? Is it because you've never asked why? And see what happens? Did you question anybody there? No. Let me read to you again what he said. I flew back to Atlanta with a pit in my stomach, the sinking feeling that cities can no longer rely. Sean, you swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. And it's just pure propaganda. It's fake bait. If you don't know about fishing, let me tell you, there's a thing called flies. They tie the flies to look like real insects, and they wick them out over the water, and a trout will jump up and bite it. And all it does is hook them. It has no nutritional value at all. You have just swallowed a load of flies that have no nutritional value at all to your intellectual moving forward. It's a sad thing that you have not asked why. You've just snatched at it. Woo! Now, why? Is it because you cannot think? You need to ask yourself that question. Now, here's what else the policy experts, public officials, reporters, and public relations professionals had to say about the White House. They said the White House and Congress are in the grips of a hard right ideology. Sean, that's called propaganda speak, that threatens to dismantle the social safety net that people facing housing insecurity and homelessness have long relied on and replace. And they want to replace it with the policies that punish and even criminalize poverty. Bull crap. Bull crap. Bull crap. You see, you listened to what they said, and you probably quoted it pretty much verbatim. Probably got some handouts that had the talking points on it, just to help you to be able to get the terminology. So you can listen and not have to take notes so much. And, oh, that's right, not think. And, oh, here, have another cocktail. About the cocktail. That was just me painting a picture. I'm going to read this again. Instead, Sean wrote, the politicians and policy experts, reporters, and public relations professionals said the White House and Congress are in the grips of a hard right ideology. We're going to get back to that momentarily. You'll find out some interesting things that are happening here in Atlanta. Dismantling the social safety net. Let's talk about the dismantling of the social safety net. What did Doge find out? Doge is still in action, by the way. Many states are counties, cities, boroughs, parishes, regions are rolling out their own Doge accountabilities and fact checking within the finances of their area, whichever area it is. Doge, horrifyingly, we always kind of suspected it though, but horrifyingly, Doge found that there was more grift, funneling of funds to Marxist organizations through a labyrinthine maze of organizations, nonprofits, that sort of thing. And this money earmarked for, let's read it, the social safety net of people having problems in the United States: food, housing, health care. Those people didn't get it. That money was going somewhere else. So, Sean, did you ever think to ask the question about, raise your hand, excuse me, but Doge found that a lot of these funds, these federal funds, were never making it to the local people. They were going into things, money being funneled. What do you say about that? Isn't that what they are cutting out? But you didn't ask that, did you? No, you didn't. Instead, let's go back to that other paragraph. During the Federal Action Local Impact Journalism Summit, policy experts who were receiving many of those funneled funds, public officials also in receipt of many of those public funds, plus reporters. Now, reporters, I can't say that they were involved in the receiving of public funds, but I'll tell you what, maybe their organization that they work for, newspapers, magazines, NPR, PBS, were receiving those, and they were using it to live high on the hog. What about these public relations pros? Maybe they were receiving it too. And it never made it to the people who were in need. So if you're calling hard right ideology the outing of criminals stealing taxpayer monies, then yay for the hard right ideology. But did you even ask that question, Sean? Sean Keenan of the Atlanta Civic Circle. Did anybody at the Atlanta Civic Circle think to send you with a list of questions to ask like that? Are they asking them locally? I don't know. But what's worse is that these PR pros, politicians, blah, blah, that we already know are bought and paid for. Bought and paid for by Marxists. Do you realize that they flat out told you a lie? They told you a lie that not only is the social safety net being destroyed, which it is not, it is being strengthened because it's going directly to who needs it, not the grifters. They are not replacing it with policies that punish and criminalize poverty. It is being replaced with policies that punish criminals who steal. See, Sean? You fell for the Marxist claptrap, and that is just too bad. Now, he ends on a hopeful note. He says, but all hope is not lost. If anything, this moment makes more urgent the need for local governments to test novel housing solutions in Atlanta and beyond. To counteract the loss of federal support, you mean, let's rewrite that sentence. To counteract the loss of control over the monies sent by federal to grifters, because they've now found the grifters and they're circumventing that. There's no time to waste. Local leaders must go ahead and pilot new programs and legislation as they assess the impact of federal policy and funding shifts instead of wasting time debating what responses may or may not work. Now, that is a good statement. Local leaders must go ahead and pilot new programs and legislation as they assess the impact of this sort of thing, of the grift that's been not coming to them. It looks on paper like it's coming to them, but is it really getting to the people who need it? And are they really being served well? Well, the answer, as I can fully attest, is no. I live here. I know what's going on. Now, here's where I'm finding it interesting. I have been, they're not calling it Doge here in Atlanta. They're not calling that at all. But, part of Doge was not just finding out where the money was being misspent or where it was being stolen from, but it was also simplifying the processes by which one could apply for and get the monies that were coming in. There were some candidates, District 7 candidates of the Atlanta City Council that were asked about the affordable housing. And let's see here. Here's what some of them said. One was Jamie Christie. I don't know if it's a girl or a boy. I didn't look it up. Jamie, Jamie, is used by both male and female. Jamey, I've seen both male and female. I've seen Jami, and until you see who it is, you don't know if it's a male or female. So Jamie Christie, this was what his statement or her statement was. The licensing and permitting process needs to become streamlined and less expensive so that housing can be more affordable. You know, local governments, and this isn't just in Atlanta, it's not just in Georgia, it's in every state. California, prime example. Oh my God, it's horrible how they treat the developers, those who want to build a house, somebody who wants to add something onto their house, someone who bought a piece of land and wants to build on it. The licensing and permitting process gets longer and longer and longer, and it more expensive. So the longer it takes to build something, and the more expensive it takes to build it because of these added costs, that makes the development that they're building or the house that they're building more expensive too. So Jamie Christie says the licensing and permitting process needs to become streamlined and less expensive. Sounds like Doge to me. Alan Daly. The key to housing affordability is through cutting red tape and incentivizing development in a manner that makes these deeply affordable housing projects viable for developers. Sounds like Doge to me. Rebecca King. Continue advocacy for the Atlanta Land Trust to receive city-owned land or discounted land in large-scale developments, especially near transit and trails. Support community land trust models in new mixed-use or transit-oriented development projects. This ensures long-term affordability, not just temporary rent caps. Sounds like Doge to me. So Doge is coming into the mindset of new politicians as they come up. Yay on the federal government being forced, and that's what's happening, being forced to get rid of these usurious, it's usury. They hold people hostage, want more money. They got a power to slow down things, to punish. It's time for this punishment to stop. It's time for everybody to say, you know what? And this includes you, Sean. We need to get rid of that which isn't working well. Ask why it isn't working well. Ask where's the money going when it finally hits the pot. And it is amazing. You know, drug people who sell drugs, they buy these restaurants, and they're the restaurants in neighborhoods that you go, you know, nobody eats there. Nobody. Now, some of the people, you know, like if the Russian mob bought a restaurant, yeah, sure, they're having their late night parties with the Russian mob and all that sort of thing. So yeah, they can show that there's some expenses and there's a little bit of income coming in, but mostly they're using these places as money laundering. I mean, there's been some Dairy Queens, there's been some other types of small restaurants like that have been used for money laundering. Everybody knows if you go by it and there's nobody there all the time, but it's been there for 25 years, it's a money laundering place. Everybody knows it. And if you do try to go to eat there, they look at you funny, like, what are you doing here? I went into a Chinese restaurant over in, oh gosh, where was it? Off of Wesley Chapel Road somewhere. This has been 15, no, it's been about 18 years ago. And I never had time to stop there, but it sure looked good. I mean, it was bright, and of course you couldn't see through the windows because they were all covered up. But they were covered up with very beautiful decorative things. It was awesome. And I said, oh, I felt in the mood one day. So I decided when I was going up to this other place that I had to pass. I had to pass this to get to it. I said, on my way back, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop and I'm going to get me some Chinese food. Ooh, it's been a long time since I had any. So I walked in the restaurant, and as soon as I'm through the doors, I knew this was one of those places. So I stood at the door because it said, please wait to be seated. So I stood there, and then in the back, far back against the wall, was a lot of men sitting around speaking a language I have no clue what it was. Could have been Japanese. Could have been, no, it was Chinese. That's what it was because it's a Chinese restaurant. Of course, that don't mean anything. Just because it was a Chinese restaurant didn't mean there wasn't somebody non-Chinese using it for money laundering. There was a female standing there. She just stared at me. All the men were staring at me. And she could tell I said, do I just pick out my own table? I figured I'm going to play dumb. I'm going to play dumb. I said, do I just pick out my own table? She turned and looked at the men in the back, and one of the men went. So she got a, what do you call that thing? A menu, and she showed me to a table in the very front right corner where I couldn't see these people anymore. And I went through the thing. She finally came over and asked me what I wanted, and I finally got it. And it was not bad food at all. But nobody was smiling. Nobody was like, thank you for coming, and please come again, and is there anything else I can do for you? No, none of that. I finished eating. I don't know if I got a to-go box with anything in it or not. I really just do not remember. Not that it matters. And then I paid my bill and I left. And I never went back. Ever. So we all know those places, don't we? One fooled me a little bit, looking as good as it did, but I never went back. It was also surrounded by a lot of fish and like fried catfish, fried whiting, home cooked stuff that all of them stayed busy all the time. And yet, as I went on back and forth passing this place, I noticed there was never any cars there. I thought I had just hit it on a middle late afternoon, No, it was who's money laundering? Well, the money laundering is going on in the federal government, and it is being identified. It is like a cancer that spreads tentacles from one part of the government to the other. And it took this Doge to just pour in all the data, and it could identify the paths. It was like a CAT scan or an MRI for grift, and it worked. So Sean of the Atlanta Civic Circle, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Atlanta Civic Circle. I know you mean well. I know you do. But you're being fooled. And if you really want to help, you will ask hard questions. And you will write truth. And you will delve into it. And you will not take the word of anybody who invites you for a fellowship for journalism. And the first words out of their mouth are, Orange Man bad. See what I'm saying?